Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the TraderMerlin Show. It is your Thursday edition, an exciting Thursday edition. I've been waiting to do this one for quite some time. As someone who is knee-deep in the crypto space, it's interesting to look back and see kind of what are the things that are helping growth of a innovative technological industry, and what are those pieces that are causing it to slow down. And of course, there's many things that are causing both sides of that to combat at this moment in time. So that will be our topic for today. I wanted to fit one more in here. I said, Gary Gensler, clown or puppet? I should actually put in there, or genius, right? And many would argue that this man is highly intelligent and that there is just something afoot with regards to what is going on with Gary Gensler and his actions at the SEC, or let's just say inactions with the SEC. So I'm going to start things off with a very high-level overview of who this man is. I mean, it'll be kind of important to know the guy that we're dealing with, since he is running the SEC and making the rules that protect you and me. That is one of their three main goals, is to make sure the markets are safe and efficient and transparent for you and me. But are they doing that? I have mentioned years ago that I had an issue at the SEC where I have clear 100% evidence of insider trading. And I called the SEC, nothing. Called the SEC, and I just got messages. And finally, I dropped a couple of F-bombs on the guy's answering machine. And the guy called me back and said, why you don't deserve to talk to me like this. I said, yeah, I do. You're not doing your freaking job, right? I'm giving you everything you need. And he goes, give me all the graphics, write up the report on it, and send it to me. I go, I don't work for you. Do your job. So I've always had an issue with the SEC and their inability to police these markets in their entirety. Or a moron? I don't think he's a moron. He actually is a very highly intelligent man. But let's start off with just a brief rundown of who is Gary Gensler. So I thought it might be nice just to do a little rundown so you guys know his past and some of the things that he has done. I think that's very important in understanding who somebody is before we judge maybe their actions that they do on social media, etc. So first thing is, he's a former Goldman Sachs investment banker. So this man is no slouch. You don't get to be a partner. At 30 years old, I think he's the youngest partner ever at Goldman Sachs. You don't get to that level by being dumb. You get there by being a team player. You get there by being highly intelligent and motivated. So already, we could rule out the moron part. He ain't an idiot. This guy is very, very smart. I always just question what his intelligence is being used for at this moment in time. So he's former Goldman Sachs investment banker. He is a former, I don't know if he still does, I think he's former, I imagine he'll be former at this point, professor of global economics and management at MIT, and he also taught cryptocurrency and blockchain. And this is one, when I heard that he was nominated by President Biden to be the chairman of the SEC, I was like, yeah, let's finally get someone in our regulatory system who understands the technology of cryptocurrency and digital assets. And I am absolutely in camp with him with regards to, there is a ton of scams out there in the crypto space. They should be dealt with. They should be removed. This whole Pepe meme coin and garbage crap like that, make it disappear. However, the other stuff, there are some legitimate projects out there. There are things that are coming down the pipeline from a technological disruptor perspective that crypto really brings to market. And to me, I'm excited for that. So, MIT professor, obviously got to be pretty smart to get onto that list. Although, that said, when he was grilled by the senators, I forgot which subcommittee meeting it was, I think it was the Banking and Investment Subcommittee, they asked him, have you ever traded cryptocurrency? And he said no. Now that to me is kind of a shot across the bow. Here is a guy who is an MIT professor who teaches blockchain and cryptocurrency, but you've never actually used it. That's like a driving instructor who's never set foot in a car. Like, you haven't touched the pedals? Don't tell which one's the brake. You know the pictures, but you don't know how they work. Like, feather the clutch? Come on, bro. Tell me what it really is like. So I think that's a huge strike against him, in my opinion, is you're teaching something that you really don't even understand how it works. Exactly, Liz, but he never owned or traded crypto. Mind-boggling. Oops, that's not correct. All right, so next on our list is, he's the former chairman of the CFTC, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. And this is a big one, right? This is another regulatory body. And at this moment, there's a battle going on between the SEC and the CFTC on who should get to regulate the crypto markets. One side, CFTC, saying their commodities will regulate it, which I would prefer. The other side is the SEC saying we'll regulate it, and I don't want that because I feel like the CFTC does a much better job of regulation than the SEC. So he's the former chairman of that. And mind you that under his supervision, under his watch, certain things have happened with under that CFTC watch that were noteworthy. Some of you might be futures traders, and you might remember a company called MF Global or MF Financial, right? They went under, and that was because of misappropriation of capital. They lost customer funds. And conveniently, the CEO at the time was a gentleman by the name of John Corzine. He was the Goldman Sachs CEO from 1994 to 1999. So conveniently, Gary Gensler and John Corzine worked together at Goldman Sachs. So one has to assume that the oversight from the SEC may have been a little bit lax because, well, I know you, John, you're good, I trust you, take care of business. And all of a sudden they lost almost $1 billion worth of customer funds and blew up MF Global. And a lot of people got hurt on that deal. That was the oversight of the CFTC under the rule of Gary Gensler. Already a big strike. And it's kind of surprising that at that time when MF Global happened, the regulators were all over Gary Gensler for dropping the ball, right? And then all of a sudden you get up to the SEC. Kind of strange you would make that kind of progress. But it is what it is, just displaying the facts that are present. Next on our list of this man's past is he was the Undersecretary of the Treasury for Domestic Finance. Awesome. He was the Assistant Secretary of the Treasury for Financial Markets. Again, impressive resume. And then he was sworn in as the chairman of the SEC April 15th of 2021, just 1 week before the filing of the IPO for Coinbase. And I just added that little one in there because I think that that's actually relevant, because here you have Coinbase, which files to go public, goes through all of the SEC procedures, and that was initially done under Allison Lee. She was the previous chairman of the SEC. You know, there was a stamp of approval on everything that Coinbase did. So the only way you could get an IPO is if the SEC signs off on everything. So they signed off on everything, and now, 2 years later, the SEC is absolutely going after Coinbase, and fortunately, we have Coinbase fighting back a little bit. Because as we go through this, one of the things that really chaps my hide and bothers me more than anything is in a normal court of law, let's say I sue you, you sue me, our lawyers are going to act to work fairly quickly to resolve this thing. And some things might drag on a little bit, but it'll take a couple of weeks, etc. With government bodies, CFTC, SEC, FTC, all these different government agencies, they have infinite pockets because of government. So they can come in and they'll sue you, and then they will just literally bleed you to death with legal fees and drag it on and on and on. So if you're trying to get any clarity for your business that's required from that agency, they will just, we're going to have to wait on that one. And not sure about that. Well, let's postpone this another 6 months. Well, the company can't function. The company can't survive. And this to me is wrong. This is not due process of the law in any stretch of the imagination. It's feet dragging by government agencies. And maybe that's just because a lot of government agencies are inept at running a business, as we discussed the other day on the show. So to me, this is a huge problem, was that the SEC stamped, you can do an IPO, you're now a public company, and now they're going after saying that you guys are selling your unregistered securities. That's illegal. So that's our first part of this discussion is Gary Gensler. The second part is, real briefly, what are the roles, or what is the role of the SEC? And I only bring this up because I want to explain what the 3 points are, and then we'll go into what's been happening, and then we can make our decision on, is Gary Gensler a clown? Is he a puppet? Or is he an absolute brilliant genius that many people think that he is? So let's go to our second step here. The SEC had its formation in 1934 with the Security Exchanges Act. This was after, of course, a major financial crisis, the Great Depression, in the United States. And it's like, you know what? Consumers got absolutely hosed here. Let's protect consumers. So they put in place a couple of things. First one is the SEC was put in place, and they have a three-part mission. Number one, protect investors. I am all for it. I believe that investors should be protected. There are a lot of charlatans and liars and cheats and thieves out there. I could mention somebody else on this program, but I told you I wouldn't talk about him anymore, as I think is in the damaging investors category, but we'll leave that alone. Number two, maintain fair, orderly, and efficient markets. Again, I think we would all agree that that is probably a good mandate by the SEC. I like my markets to be fair, orderly. I actually wish they would add transparent, but maybe that's part of the efficiency side of it. So far, I've got no problem with the missions of the SEC. I think it should be done. And the final one, which is where I have a little issue with what is happening today, that is to facilitate capital formation. Now, if you don't know what that means, I actually took the definition from the SEC's website. And the SEC says our regulatory regime provides companies and entrepreneurs with a variety of avenues to access America's capital markets to help them create jobs, develop life-changing innovations in technology, and provide financial opportunities for those who invest in them. That sounds so altruistic. So altruistic. Like, hey, let's do good for America. And if you look at the actions that are happening today, I would argue that this point right here, the SEC is absolutely violating this. By their actions currently, the SEC is not facilitating capital formation. As a matter of fact, it's pushing out jobs. It's here it says creating jobs, develop life-changing innovations in technology, and provide financial opportunities for those who invest in them. With what the SEC is doing with crypto at this present moment in time, they are destroying jobs. You are seeing Coinbase now saying, screw you, SEC, we will leave the country, and many others. You look at their actions against Kraken. Kraken now doing massive layoffs because the SEC is cracking down on Kraken. That's kind of a pun there. Develop life-changing innovations. Blockchain is a life-changing innovation for global communities. And by going after and targeting specifically crypto firms, you are now thwarting innovation. You are preventing this amazing new technology from being developed here, and the stupidity of our regulators is now going to make that technology go where? Overseas, right? France. France met with Brian Armstrong, met with Elon Musk, and they're like, come on over. I guess I should do it in a French accent, but I don't want to offend anybody. Come on over to France. We will welcome you with open arms. I give you a brioche and a café. Come to us. We will bring you into France. Come to Paris. Was that bad? Too bad? But France is saying, look, we're open to it. Come on, bring your business, bring your innovation, bring your technology. And ultimately, if this keeps happening, it's going to put America in a bad spot. We will become the laggard, not the leader, and we should be the leader in this category. So that's facilitating capital formation. Now, there's been a ton of actions taken by the SEC against crypto firms. And I put a very short list here. And they allow right, Echo, that's a good point. You can allow SPACs, which are specialty purpose acquisition company, which is a blank check company. Ridiculous. Yeah, that's a great point, Echo. I didn't even think about that. Those are most of them turn out to be scams. I would say at least 75% of the SPACs have been absolute scams, garbage. And here the SEC allows that. That doesn't make much sense, but you got to go after something. So here is, I like the French phrases, you mean freedom fries, right? Let's look at some of the SEC actions. So number one, in December of 2022, actually, no, I'm sorry, this is wrong. Hold up, wait a minute. I can't have bad info on this chart. Let me correct this number real quick because that was not 2022. That was actually in 2020. I want to make sure I get that number correct. There we go. Sorry about that. I was rushing to get all this done. My research analyst, me, myself, and we spent some time on this one today. So SEC actions. In December of 2020, SEC sued Ripple Labs for selling unregistered securities, to which Ripple said they're not securities. And here's where we have one of our fundamental problems with what's going on in this system right now. The SEC says these are unregistered securities, and then Ripple says, well, they're not securities. Yet they're going back and forth. And when you ask, you guys saw this testimony, I played it for you a couple weeks ago, when Gary Gensler was in front of the Senate, they asked him, is Ethereum a security? And in Gary Gensler in classic scholar form started going off on all this different stuff and beating around the bush, but never addressing. And he asked him over and over and over again, is Ethereum a security? We can't get from the governing body, the regulators of American financial markets, we can't get them to say this is a security and this is not. And when you say this is a security, give me all the reasons for it. So this right now is that court case that's going on, to which Ripple Labs has spent over $500 million fighting. Thank goodness they have that kind of capital, because what would have happened normally? The SEC would have just stood there and done nothing and said, we're suing you, we're suing you, we're suing you, and Ripple would have gone under. But because they have a lot of money, they're now standing up and fighting this one. So bravo to Ripple Labs. I'm not a huge fan of Ripple Labs, but bravo for standing up and fighting the big bully, the never-ending Goliath, which is the Securities and Exchange Commission. So that's your first SEC action that really set the tone. And there's a lot of other ones. I know I'm not going to hit them all, but that's the first one is Ripple Labs, and that is still ongoing. The second one was where Coinbase filed a petition on whether existing securities rules will apply to crypto. Now, let me ask you, type in the chat, just a simple yes or no. Do you think that it's unreasonable for a company that has already gone through the vetting process to be a publicly traded company to ask the regulator that stamped its approval for an IPO if the current securities laws will be applying to crypto? Is that out of line or unreasonable? Yes or no? Would you say that that's an unreasonable demand for Coinbase to say, hey, Securities and Exchange Commission, you've approved us. We just want to know, will those rules that you have well established, will that apply to crypto? Is that unreasonable in your guys' mind? Does the government lose money over these scams? No, they probably make money because what happens is regulators go in and they sue and they get some money from somebody and they keep that. Sometimes they'll disperse it out to the end users, but for the most part, no. Do you think it's a fair thing to ask? I mean, I would think if I was a business owner, there shouldn't be anything shocking about that. It's like, hey, I just want to know, are those rules that you have going to apply to crypto? Because I'm a crypto business, I need to know that because I want to be compliant. So I think we'd all agree it's a fair question to ask. It's not unreasonable at all. Let me ask you this: How long should it take? I'll let you guys, and I've got a smaller group here, but how long should it take, in your mind, if you're going through a feud with somebody, when you ask them a simple question? This isn't like, I need you to rewrite the Constitution for the United States of America. I just need you to tell me, are the current rules that you have on your books that I can read and look through, are those going to apply to crypto? How long should it take for that agency to say yes or no? How long do you think that should be? Just curious what you guys think. Give me a time frame on how long you think it should take for the SEC to respond to this simple request that, are these rules going to apply to my business? And you have the rules because you're the Securities Exchange Commission. How long do you think that should take? Well, I'll let you know. A week max? Yeah. I'll even give you 2 weeks, right? I get it. You're busy. You're the SEC. You got a ton of stuff going on. So let's give you a little bit of time. So Medic says a week, 3 business days max for Ricardo. A week, 3 months. So Boss Poopa says 3 months. We're dealing with government here, so 3 months might even be acceptable. Here's what happened. They've done nothing. As of today, the SEC have still done nothing. So what happened here is in April, Coinbase, in April of 2023, let's go back here and change the dates here because I didn't add the year on this one. We'll go April of 2023 to 023. Okay, so in April of 2023, Coinbase sued the SEC saying, it's been like almost a year and you haven't even responded to this. So what they did is they sued, they went to a court and they asked for, it's hard for me to pronounce this word. I think it's called a mandamus relief or writ of mandamus, which is where they go to the court and say, listen, this entity is taking too long on this. We want to force them to give us an answer. So Coinbase filed that mandamus relief to the court, and the court agreed with them and said, listen, they turned to the SEC now and said, you have 10 days to reply. And the SEC responded back saying, no, we don't need to. It's an unreasonable request, this writ of mandamus, and they don't need to get an answer. And I read through it. You guys can actually pull down, Tom, you're pretty damn close to what the SEC has said. It was really kind of jaw-dropping to see what the SEC's response to this was. And I have a whole bunch of notes over here, so I'll be looking off to the side for a second. So what happened was the SEC released this document on Tuesday, and it was, I forget how many pages. I want to say 35 pages. So you can download it from the internet. I read through every single item, and they reference 100 different legal cases. And I'm like, if you just spend as much time going through your rebuttal to this legal document, you would have already figured out what the security is, what a definition of a security is, so we could all follow it. In there, what they typically do, basically the SEC urged the judge to reject Coinbase's demand for explanation. That right away should make you lose faith in our regulatory bodies. If the regulatory agency is telling the court to reject a business's request for explanation, then what kind of system do we have here? A flawed, broken, ridiculous system, which is what we're in right now. So in the documentation, and it wasn't Gensler who wrote this, obviously, it's a team of lawyers, they cite that getting a response in 1 or 2 years is normal. So we're not dragging our feet. This is normal. In what world are you working in? Oh, government. Sorry, my bad. But they also cite in there that some of the cases that did not get this writ of mandamus, which would force them to give them an answer, have gone on 5 years, 6 years, 9 years, 10 years. Can you imagine a simple 10 years that the Fed is now basically giving them this cushion saying, no, it takes us time to give you that answer on whether the rules that we have today are going to apply to crypto. And I think it's abundantly clear that by dragging your feet that long, you're basically forcing current business structures to go in business as usual because I don't have any clarity, and then you're going to come after them right away. So basically, it's relying on enforcement actions instead of rulemaking. And to me, that's the problem, right? You're basically not telling them what they can and cannot do. You're basically going to punish them if they do something wrong. Imagine a situation where we have, and some of you might experience this in your counties and cities. I know they have them up in LA. But what's going on right now with the crypto world and the SEC is the same thing. The SEC are the police in this example, and the Coinbase is the average consumer. In my example, the Los Angeles County Police Department will host something once or twice a year where it's like, bring your guns down to the police station. No questions asked. You put them in a bin and we destroy those guns. It's an attempt to get guns off the streets. I think it's a great idea. What the SEC is doing in that example, if they're the police, when you bring your gun down, as soon as you pull your gun out to put it in the container to drop your gun off, they're pulling out their guns and then they're going to arrest you for gun possession. And then they're going to do a background check on that gun and see if it's been used for anything ever in the history of mankind and sue you for all that as well. That's the analogy I'm going to make with regards to the SEC and crypto. It's the gun drive where you're trying to do good and you invite people in and then you absolutely shut them down and arrest them. The SEC has said you must register your securities, right? We want you to register your securities with us. So come down, register your securities. To which Coinbase has said, okay, we'll come and talk to you. And then immediately they got a Wells notice from the SEC saying, we're suing you. It's like, well, hold on a second. How am I supposed to work with you if you want to sue me? I don't know. It seems kind of crazy. Bizarre to me that this whole system is going on. So let me, I'll read one phrase here. And this was what the SEC was, one of the citings that they quoted in their rebuttal to the current lawsuit by Coinbase. And it says, the entire rate-making procedure in the 1934 Communications Act assumes that rates will be fairly decided within a reasonable time, encompassing months, occasionally a year or two, but not several years or a decade. Then they go on to, in that same document, say, delays of 5 years and 9 years don't warrant this mandamus request. So that they're basically trying to convince the judge to not force the SEC to come up with a decision on something that seems so benignly simple. Real quick, let me read through your questions. Many cryptos are being traded like a security, but isn't currency trading regular like a security? Well, I guess you don't need to regulate currency because it is the currency, right? You just make sure that it's fiat currency. The trading systems, there is some regulation in there, certainly with regards to leverage in the United States. We can only get 50-to-1 leverage here in the U.S. Internationally, they can 500,000 or 500 or 100% margin. That's like not posting a speed limit and then paying it. Exactly. It's like saying, or not having any speed limits and then getting arrested for it. Well, how am I supposed to know what the speed limit is? You got to post it. Let me know. It's just nuts that is going on. Admiral Heckmar, it's a trap. It's a trap. Yeah, absolutely. Where was I going to go with this one? For the future, I had some really other good comments. Oh, so in my mind, as I look at this and step back, and of course I'm biased because I'm a crypto fan, but I would be as critical as I am for any other situation. If I'm looking for a regulatory agency, regardless of SEC or any other agency that's making the rules, the framework, or the guardrails for us as citizens in all of our business, hell, it could even be the health department. Well, what are the rules for this? Okay, great. Health department, figure it out, and they'll help me. I doubt the health department's going to take 5 years to come up with a rule on, how wide my oven range can be or how wide the hood has to be. Boom, they got it. We'll get that done real quick. Let me ask you this, guys. How many people do you think work at the SEC? Don't Google it, just guess. How many people do you think work at the Security and Exchange Commission? And I've made this point before, but I think it's rather ridiculous that you have this many employees and you cannot come to a simple discussion on what a security is. A clear-cut discussion where we can now put every crypto project into this filter and it will say security, commodity, or something else. I'll just let you know there's roughly 4,500 people working at the SEC. So I'll try to make a nice, concise breakdown here. Ooh, good one, Tom. None are actually working. How many are employed? There you go. That's good, Tom. Tom's always the cynic out there. So yeah, you have 4,500 people employed at the SEC. The question is, maybe a couple of those are working. So because I think I'm going to try to take this little bit and put it into, snip it out and put it onto social media and see if I can get this thing to travel around, I'm going to be rather critical, and I will say, here is your donkey of the day for the week of May 18th. The donkey of the day, without question, is Gary Gensler. And I would say it's probably the donkey of the week and possibly the donkey of the month. Because I don't understand how an individual can sit there in front of a Senate subcommittee hearing when asked pointed questions, simple yes and no, that can never, and not in one circumstance, answer yes or no. It'd be interesting if one of those senators said, Mr. Gensler, are you a boy or are you a girl? I don't know. I'll go on some random topic. Well, maybe you're just transgender and that's acceptable today. What's not acceptable is that you are killing thousands of businesses. And because of that, tens of thousands of people will be losing their jobs because you and your incompetent agency of 4,500 employees cannot come up with simple definitions when asked for by the businesses that you are trying to regulate. So wait a minute. I'm a business. I need to get clarity on the rules of what I can do. And you say, I'm sorry, we're not going to get to that for another 4, 5, maybe even 10 years. But by the way, while you're waiting, we will put enforcement action on your company and choke you to death until you leave our country. That sounds anti-American, anti-patriotic, and makes me wonder whether you're just a clown, whether you're a puppet, or a genius. And I can't believe that you would be that stupid, that benignly stupid, that you would crush American businesses like that. So I have to go to the third option, well, which is that you're a puppet. And I have to think even deeper about who's pushing your buttons, who is telling you to go after it. Because I just don't believe that you are that dumb to not come up with an answer of what is a security. For example, out of those 4,500 people, take 100 people for one day. An 8-hour window, and hell, you're government officer, so you probably don't even work 8 hours anyway. Let's take your 5-hour workday if you actually work over there, because I don't see much coming out of the SEC. Take your 5-hour workday, take 100 employees, put them in a big room, and ask scholars to come in. I'm sure that Harvard scholars and your old alma mater, MIT, have some professors that would love to come in and help clarify all the rules for what is a security. And by the end of that day, the world, particularly the United States, would be in a much better place because now the companies who have been begging, asking, and now suing you for clarity will get an idea. Is their company safe? Is their project safe? And how do I do business in the United States? But instead, your gross incompetence is going to cause these companies to lose their faith in you, lose faith in the United States business structure, and they will leave. And that is a disadvantage to me and anybody else, regardless of if it's crypto or just being an American. And that, my friends, is why Gary Gensler is the donkey of the day. I'm out of breath. I'm winded. I'm pissed. I mean, it really bothers me, guys. And again, I think that he's a very intelligent man. So I'm going to post that, and I'll probably get some serious feedback from the SEC and regulators from that. Hey, I'm offended. I didn't work for the... Hey, some government people aren't working very hard, right? You get Elon... You look at Tesla, you don't get somebody who's putting in 6-hour days or even 8-hour days. It's like you're putting in 12, 14, 16-hour days, or you can hit the pavement and leave. With Merlin... What? The SEC is just a bunch of old lawyers who don't know how to deal with software that can change constantly. Yeah, and I think that's the problem here, Martin, is we're dealing with a situation that this is technology that is changing so rapidly. And it really does represent a threat to the current system. If we look at the digital asset space, blockchain, cryptocurrency, there's multiple threats. The number one threat, and I agree with Gary Gensler, there's scams abound. There's stuff that needs to be weeded out and thrown in the garbage. There's other companies that need to be pushed out, right? We need to have rules that prevent some 14-year-old kid from creating a meme coin, getting a hold of, some celebrities and pumping it on social media and ripping people off. That should be disallowed. But you shouldn't go after a company like Coinbase, which is legitimately trying to create an exchange, a financial media marketplace for people to do legitimate business and trade in a new asset class. So it really just blows my mind on why we're seeing such feet dragging. That you can't come up with a definition of what a security is that any of these projects could look at and go, okay, I've got it. If they did that, then Coinbase could look and say, we're going to put every coin or token that we trade on our exchange, we'll run that through this filter, and therefore everything that comes out as a security, then those companies can choose. You either register with the SEC and then we'll list you, or you don't. It's simple. But now the Coinbase is vulnerable because they're selling these things, but the SEC won't tell them exactly what it is. Blows my mind. Anyway, that's my rant for the day. These are some of the other companies that they've gone after. Bittrex, Gemini, Genesis, Justin. Well, Justin Sun, he's a shady guy at times. It seems like he's a shady guy at times. Do Kwon, he probably deserves to be in jail. Kraken, legitimate business, trying to do legitimate business stuff in the U.S. Same with Coinbase. So, the exchanges like Genesis, Gemini, Bittrex, Kraken, Coinbase, they're trying to do the right things. I think that for the most part, they want to be on the up and up. But when someone's not letting you be on the up and up, you got problems out there. So there's my donkey of the day. Oh, boy. Let's see what kind of trouble I get in for that one. Oh, by the way, let me show you one more thing here. I want to make this full screen if I can.
That we've talked about.
And I'm going to make this really high volume here. Let me know if you guys can hear this. As you know, Gary Gensler taught at MIT, which I mentioned. He taught blockchain and cryptocurrency, and he never traded it, never held any, doesn't know really the mechanics of it, obviously, because he's never used it. So let me show you this. And we're in the situation because he says they're all securities, right? Okay, really? This is from 1999.
Quarters of the market is non-securities. It's just a commodity, a cash crypto. So you'll hear debates about initial coin offerings and what's a security and what's not a security. Relevant and important debate. But for 3/4 of the market, it's not particularly relevant as a legal matter, as a regulatory matter. Brodish.
So I don't know if you guys could hear that, but he says in front of his students, 3/4 of crypto are not securities. It's 75%. So then why are we having all this big hoopla about it? Now he's saying everything is. So you talk about hypocritical, or something has changed his mind with regards to what is a security and what is not. That video cracks me up. I think it was 2000. Oh, sorry, that wasn't 2009. It was 2018. So just a few years back. Anyway, but what would be the genius point? Is Gensler playing 4D chess and we just don't see it? I think he's just a very smart man. I don't think he's a genius in the sense of this is an orchestrated move on his part. I personally believe that he's being told what to do. I think that the regulatory agencies are under pressure from the current administration to drag their feet on this, to not work with digital asset and crypto firms. It just feels like that's certainly the comments that come from some of the Democrat side. Biden, obviously Elizabeth Warren. There is a negative push there on that one side of the political party, which I think may be influencing his decision and causing him to drag his feet. It seems stupid. I wish there was something that you and I, as Americans, could do, as opposed to Coinbase having to fight this with millions of dollars in a lengthy court process. We have a 3-tiered system: the legislative, the judicial, and the executive. And unfortunately, the judicial part of the system, after what happened at OTA, I just hang my head in shame and embarrassment at the judicial system, especially when you're dealing with a government entity. It is really just unbelievable the power they yield and how they would much rather just kill you before they even got to trial, make your business die. So when you finally get to trial, you're like, oh, we have no money and we can't fight you anyway. And they go, see, we were right all along. You're a bad company. You've been doing bad things. Blows my mind. So, we have due process is something that I think is one of our inalienable rights, and we don't have due process in the crypto space right now. It's really unfortunate that a lot of this is just taking forever and ever. Hell, even Amanda Heard in Johnny Depp trial didn't take as long as this simple response. And this was a simple, yes, these current rules are going to apply to crypto, or no, these current rules are going to apply to crypto. Really, really simple. Unbelievable. Anyway, sorry, that's my rant. No whiskey, just pure anger and hostility here today from me.
So
Let me
we
get
already know in the U.S.
75% of crypto is not a security, according to Gary Gensler, and now all of a sudden we're going after all cryptos. All right, let's just run through our top 7 here, have some fun, wrap up our show. What time? How long we got? Oh, wow, that was a long one. I didn't realize how long my rant went. Starting things off at the bottom here, Bitcoin is now challenging that lower level, which I mentioned, that 26,666. Not liking this. Of course, I don't want it to break down below that, but it might. We'll have to wait and see on that one. I don't like it currently. Just hold, baby, hold. Down 2.37% today. Gold and silver looking really bad today. You see the real abrupt break of this base that goes back to mid to late April. I was really kind of hoping that would have held. That's kind of I sold puts on silver, so I will be probably underwater tomorrow by a couple cents, no big deal. But really an aggressive sell-off here for gold over the past week and a half, going from about 2080 down to 1960. So you got an $140 slide for gold in just 5 or 6 trading sessions. Now, crude oil, after its nice little pop yesterday, retreating just a bit to 71.94, down to 1.22%. Technically, I still think that upper yellow box is in play. All right, that's it. Number 4 on the list, Dow, up 0.42%. Still, my feeling on the Dow has not changed. It really doesn't look like anything special here from a technical perspective. The Russell was up 0.57%. And again, we're actually coming right up into an area that's not fresh, but is still a big overall range. But there is a shorter-term supply level right around 1,800, and you're currently at 1,791 on the Russell 2000. So we're very close to that overhead high right here, which may act as a supply zone. We'll have to wait and see there. Last two. Indexes doing well. S&P 0.97%. So call it 1% gain for the S&P. Looking great. The reason I like this is it's really at the very extreme range of this overhead supply. You got like a couple cents left before it rips out of that, and then you're looking at 43.13. So an ascending triangle here on the S&P 500. Chart looks great. Let's move it to the upside. Think that this will probably continue on trucking here, even though it seems so bearish out there. And then lastly, the NASDAQ. Was expecting it to stop in that yellow box. Not only did it not stop, it's ripping right now. 1.84% for the NASDAQ. With that, you kind of got to step back and look at, well, where's our next level? Happy I sold some options on XLK, so those will all expire worthless tomorrow. Got a bunch of stuff expiring worthless tomorrow. But from a technical perspective, where are we headed? You look over here off to the left-hand side. I don't think that this is a great supply zone. This one right around 14,100. I don't see any ones here that really jump off the screen at me, so I'll have to wait a little bit longer and let this thing keep on rallying up. I do think we're ready for a pullback. Part of me feels like this is going to be a bull trap and we're going to get a sharp move down, but I've been wrong on my short calls here recently, so I will leave those alone and go for the bullish stuff. Other reasons, or other positive things out there. You did have a pretty big up move in the dollar index today, so when we look at the head and shoulders pattern that had formed, we were looking at this consolidation on the hard right side of the chart, and all of a sudden the past 2 weeks it's really gotten some legs underneath it, which tells me for whatever reason we have more positive sentiment out there for that dollar index. That could push things back up here to the shoulder, which is our right shoulder of the head and shoulders pattern, which gets you to right around looks to be at 105.50. So quite a bit of a ways to go till we get there. Hey, mahalo, Big M. Hope you're getting sunburn over there and enjoying a wonderful vacation in Hawaii. You missed my rant. I'm debating whether I even want to post that one or delete that from the show today because I kind of went off on Gary Gensler, and I'll have some legal action against me for my opinions on Gary Gensler. Yeah, damn it. It's all opinion. It's all an opinion. And then lastly, we got bonds. So I'll just show you the bond market here. They didn't do much. You had, actually, the new session didn't do much. You're rolling over right now. There's your Thursday rally up. So nice rally. We go past this area of supply. Not that there's supply and demand principles that work with yields, but just showing you the overall trend here starting to look much more bullish with regards to yields. And I think that has a lot to do with the potential for default, which we talked about yesterday. I do believe you'll start to see these yields creep back up over the next couple weeks as we go towards that June 1st debt ceiling deadline. Yeah, John, UNG was smoking today. So here's natural gas. It's still a long way to go until it gets back up to even some semblance of stability that it was before, but at least it's not making new lows. As John Rowland pointed out, you got this $2 line, it's really just bounced off that $2 line. And now you're seeing this nice rip up. It's up, like I said, 9% today. For those, I know a buddy of mine's got some Boyle. So Boyle up 20, it was up 20% actually today at one point, but still a long way to go. But yeah, natural gas looking great. Is it out of the woods? I don't know. I mean, I don't think we're going to go back down below 2. So sure, seems like it would be a decent time to jump on natural gas. Although you're going into the summer months, so you know how much of a rally do you typically get during summer? If we scroll back here and look from May on, you know, here's May of last year. Well, it actually showed a lot of negativity. Of course, the price was much higher. I'll go back to previous times when we saw it down around 2. So here you have the $2 floor again, right? And you look in the summertime, well, you actually had a nice rally that one summer. So I don't know. I'm not a fundamental guy when it comes to natural gas. I'm just looking at the price chart, and it looks great right now. It looks like we're actually just starting to get that uptrend going. We just broke through those highs that we achieved back on April 28th. So now the question is, does that momentum continue and get us back up to the $3 mark? There you go. About Bitcoin and ETH today. With my luck, it will drop. Come on, don't be a Jim Cramer, Blue Diesel. Don't be a Jim Cramer. Just be positive out there, and it'll all be okay. All right, so I did not get my economic calendar and earnings stuff ready because I was too busy getting this stuff done for today's show. Some of the data that did come out today, I'll bring it up for you just so you can check it out. Here is today's activity. That Philly Fed Manufacturing Index staying below 0. Now, the Empire got a little bit better, but still sitting at 50. So Philly, not good. The other information on this screen is the existing home sales, which came out worse than expected. I actually thought this might be better than expected, so I was wrong on that one. And those are your two major things for today. Unemployment claims dropped just a hair, but that's really not that big a deal. For tomorrow, for Whiskey Friday, you've got Chairman Powell will be speaking. And if you want to know where he's speaking at, he is going to participate on the Perspectives of Monetary Policy. That's the Thomas Lubach Conference. That will be at 8 a.m. Pacific time. So be careful with that one. And I don't expect anything dramatic, but you never know. One word out of his mouth can cause his markets to just go haywire. You also have other members of the FOMC speaking tomorrow, but the chairman is the one that really matters. As far as earnings go, nothing really on the earnings front for tomorrow. I can bring it up for you if you like, just so you can see the calendar, but not really anything exciting happening out there tomorrow. And this is from Zach's research. You did a Walmart beat today, so you got that. That's a good one. Canadian Solar as well, but tomorrow, John Deere and Foot Locker are your only real two major ones there, at least from the U.S. market. So that, my friends, is your show for today. That's a 1 hour, no, 45-minute show. I guess, you know, the ultimate result or end question here. Now, I don't know the answer. Is Gensler a clown, a puppet, or a genius? Personally, I'm starting to lean into the direction of a puppet. I don't think he's a clown. I think he's a very smart man. I think he's kind of frustrated that he has to do this, and I kind of get the feeling that he doesn't want to do it anymore. After he was grilled by the Senate, boy, it just seemed like he was so uncomfortable. It's like, get me out of here. I don't want to have to be polite to these people. And lo and behold, we got Gensler's actions today. All right, so that's going to do it for me, everybody. Hope you enjoyed that one. I will... I think I'm going to... should I take out that Donkey of the Day segment, just snip that little piece out and put that on social media, or should I just leave it as the whole show? What do you guys think? I don't know. I don't know any lawyers out there. I don't want to get in trouble for it, but is gold a buy around this level? Big M? We'll check that one out for you. Let's go. I'm going to use the futures market here for this one. Here's GC. Not really. I really don't see. I mean, if I look off to the left here, where's an area that I feel like it was a big rally at? It seems like it's just a solid uptrend. If anything, I would say lower, and I will draw that out for you. Let me get that, turn the snap off. You know, I would say somewhere down here would probably be a better spot. But that's only because in between March 16th and April 14th, there really wasn't a strong, clear demand zone. It was lots of chop, lots of retests. It kind of got eaten up. Therefore, I would have to put this new 1900 level as the next target for gold. I hope not. I hope we get a little bounce tomorrow. I'd love to see silver, which so I have a whole bunch of the 22 puts. SLV. I got a whole bunch of the 22 puts, and here we are at 21.57. I'd love to see a nice close up above 22 tomorrow. And 22.01 would be perfect, or even 21.99 is fine. I'll just sell some calls against it at 22 and capitalize on that one. But anyway. All right, that's going to do it for me, everybody. If you got comments, questions, feedback, let me know. I am going to wrap this one up. Tomorrow, no guest, as usual. It will be whiskey and just topics. So if you have something you want me to discuss, let me know. Send it on in at TraderMerlin@gmail.com or put it down below any of the YouTube videos that said, go Denver Nuggets. Even though the first Lakers game was I was shocked how good the Lakers did. I'm a big Nuggets fan. I want to see the Nuggets and the Celtics in the playoffs. That Miami game last night, crazy how good Miami was in that fourth quarter. All right, everybody, that's going to do it. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.